Okay, let me see if I get this here. How about that? Okay, and Bernadette, let me know, here's your clicker, and let me know when you want to get into your video. Make that work.
Okay. I just want to comment before I introduce our speaker that I think there was a mistake on that, on Pam's slide. I think that should have been a plus sign, Paul Harris plus 2, which would equal 3. But since Matt put it together and I was in asking for a jury award, multiplication is always better than addition. So he's in that. These meet Bernadette Sproul, who is with Community Matters. They were in Sebastopol for many years. They've since moved to Santa Rosa. She is the finance and HR director for Community Matters, and she has a background in nonprofit and for-profit organizations. She and her husband moved to Northern California, and she discovered Community Matters, and she's now been with them for over 10 years. And she's a strong advocate for youth safety and youth voice. So, Bernadette, here you go.
Good morning, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much for having me here. As he said, Community Matters actually started in Sebastopol on Morris Street a number of years ago. We moved to Santa Rosa just a couple of years ago, and we still miss Sebastopol quite. Many of our staff members live here, and I lived here for 9 years before moving up to Middletown about 4 years ago. We're all in this together. I think everyone feels kind of the good neighbor policy that's coming forward because of all the fires and everything, and it just makes me so happy to be able to come to different Rotaries here, Petaluma, Healdsburg, Lakeport, and so forth, and just to see everyone pull together and help each other out is a great heart feeling. Thank you so much for having me here today. So Community Matters started about 22 years ago. Originally, our founding former executive director, Rick Phillips, started it from doing the challenge races and helping schools to raise money to bring programs to their schools. He was an educator his entire career, and he had a very strong passion for youth voice and believing that youth could participate in school and create a more positive school climate. So originally, we had kind of a broad focus. And then in 1999, as everyone knows, Columbine occurred. And that left a huge imprint on our nation. And we kind of changed trajectory at that point. And that's when we created and started the Safe School Ambassador Program. How many people here have heard of that program? Okay, very familiar with it. Thank you. So the Safe School Ambassador Program was created in response to Columbine because, one of the things that came out was that a lot of people knew in part, in bits and pieces, things that were going on in these two young men's heart and minds. Some people knew that they had weaponry, some people knew they had this bitterness, these plans and so forth, but no one was communicating with each other, and everyone was a bit fearful from them, for good reason. And a lot of students just didn't have the skills and the tools to know what to do, to how to communicate in regards to what they were seeing. So just to back up a little bit, our mission is to wake up the courage of students and adults to create schools that are safe, welcoming, and inclusive. In response to Columbine, our nation's response was more along the lines of an outside-in approach. And that's the hardware that goes into school, the metal detectors, the cameras, and so forth. And those things are unfortunately necessary in this day and age. And it's adult-driven, punitive policies, control-oriented. And our nation spent literally billions of dollars on this. What we focused in on was our level of expertise is the inside-out approach. And that's on relationship-focused, student-centered, formative, restorative, focused on changing social norms and creating a positive school climate. So again, the outside-in approach with cameras and so forth, they're catching fights, weapons, gangs, physical bullying. The responses are to catch, discipline, suspend, expel. What we're focused is on the things that happen that lead up to fights, and more along the lines of preventative measures. So we have students that are looking for unwanted contact, relational aggression, exclusion, put-downs, rumors, cyberbullying, harassment, because we want to focus on preventative intervention and de-escalating mistreatment before it actually happens. One of the quotes that we put out there quite a bit is this one right here. We're living in an unprecedented social experiment. We've systematically changed the patterns and connections that have characterized human life for as long as there have been human life. And this is one aspect of that is technology. Now, technology is fantastic in the hands of someone who has some kind of social skills and knows how to interact with other human beings in a positive and relational manner. It's important with business and so forth. But when it's in the hands of students and they're having a sense of disconnectedness with the people around them, then it can be completely detrimental. And I think everyone's pretty much aware of cyberbullying and what the aspects of that are. When we were going to school, we had to maybe worry about a group of girls spreading rumors or lies, or maybe getting beat up for our lunch money. But nowadays, something like that it can occur, but with texting and the social community world, you can take a picture of someone in their most vulnerable state, and it can go to hundreds, maybe thousands of people in an instant. So kind of the old methodology of like letting kids work it out amongst themselves isn't really currently practical. Thank you. It really doesn't work anymore. I mean, we still need to do that, but we need to do more. We need to provide students with skills and tools that we've learned through the hard knocks of life. So what we're looking at, what we found out through a lot of studies, is that with targets and aggressors, they make up about 15% of the student population. And a lot of times those roles can change. Someone who's been a victim for many years can suddenly turn into an aggressor. And what we're looking to get at with the student population are the bystanders, 85% of the silent majority that sees mistreatment occur. What we've also found is that 76% of teenagers reported that they wanted to see something happen. They wanted to see an intervention occur when they see mistreatment, but only 16% report that they actually see anything happen. So that's why we created the Safe School Ambassador Program. And the way the Safe School Ambassador Program works is that we train a school to find out all the different cliques on their campus. And everyone has to be included. We're talking about not just the top, A students, the chess club, the debate team. You've got to find out and identify all the different cliques on campus. And then between teacher surveys and student surveys, we find out within each clique, who's the influential leader? Who's the one that other students look to for advice, to help them when they need support, and basically just follow their lead. And we've had a lot of students, or rather teachers, ask us, I have a student who's kind of a class clown, but he is definitely a leader. Could he possibly be an ambassador? We say absolutely. Because the other thing that we're looking for, besides the fact that they're a social leader, is that they have a sense of social justice. Even if it's only amongst their clique of friends, they have that sense of, I watch my friends' backs. So what we're training the ambassadors to do is to, the reason why we're using, I'm sorry, I'm completely fumbling over my words here. We're looking to students because they see, hear, and know things adults don't, and they can effectively intervene in ways adults can't, and they're first to arrive on the scene of mistreatment, and they set the tone and the social norms on the campus. So once we find all these influential leaders within a campus, it's typically about 35 to 45 students. We want about 10% of the student population on the campus. And they go through an intensive 2-day training. Well, first they're explained about exactly what they're going to be asked to do. And then we have actually a 99% rate of opt-in from the students. Students really want to be involved. They want to participate. They want to have a voice on the campus. And they want to have a place that they can go to that's safe and that's welcoming, and they want to participate. And so it takes students to be involved to make a difference, because there's so many more students than adults on the campus, and students listen to each other much more than they do adults, as we all know. So as I said, we identify all the different cliques, and this can be, we trained some schools in Los Angeles. There were members that were ambassadors that had 1 foot in the gang world and 1 foot out. And we had some incredible interviews with these students. I remember one of them said, I felt like a light was shone on a path that I didn't even know was there. So when you hear that from students who could potentially take a really south route in their life, that's just fills the heart with some hope in regards to everything. So we find the student leaders. They go through the Safe School Ambassadors orientation. They go through the 2-day training. We have the 35 to 40 students along with 5 to 8 adults. Now the 8 adults are also chosen very carefully too. They're people that should be just really have a high level of trust with the students. It doesn't necessarily need to all be teachers. We've had librarians, custodians, bus drivers as part of the adult contingency. And we have to have adults because the tools and the skills that we train the students to intervene in mistreatment, they have a number of things that they can do, but obviously there's going to be times when they actually do need adult help. If they know about a large-scale fight that's going to be breaking out, or weapons on the campus, something like that. Because the #1 thing that we train all the Safe School Ambassadors is to make sure they're safe before they do anything. So when they're going through the training, the first thing that we do is we kind of help them break down the barriers amongst themselves. Like I said, these are different clique leaders. So they may not even know the other students they're going through the training with. They might not even like them. So the first thing that we do is we go through a series of exercises to help them find what they have in common by talking about their own life experiences. And again, as adults, we know when we're sitting in a room with complete strangers, we can look at any one of us and know that we've been through different experiences in our life, tragedies and joys. And when you share them, then you get to know each other. And you know there's a lot less that's different. There's a lot more that's in common. So we then start helping them to understand what mistreatment is, when a joke has gone too far, what that means. So we're looking at exclusion, put-downs, bullying and cyberbullying, unwanted physical touch, and acts against campus. So we want them to notice when a student's sitting by themselves at lunch for a couple of weeks in a row, all of a sudden, what's going on there? So the ambassador's job is to notice, to think and act and follow through. And the skills that we're teaching them are balancing, distracting, supporting, directing, reasoning, and like I said, getting help from adults, from trusted adults. And I'll give a really good, quick example of something that happened a couple of years ago via social media. It was kind of a Twitter argument that escalated really quickly. And unfortunately, the person that was the target was also someone who was in a high-risk situation and going through a lot of troubles on her own. And a couple of ambassadors saw what was happening. They saw that the person who was being aggressive, that a lot of other people were jumping on board, and that the target started becoming much more and more cryptic in her responses. And they got really concerned because they knew the student well enough to feel a high level of concern about what they were seeing in her responses. This happened over a weekend. They reached out to their adult leader, who also contacted the principal. And the principal contacted the parents of the target. And it turned out that this girl was actually considering suicide, had already been in that space before any of this occurred, and that this was actually pushing her over the edge. And this got her some really well-needed help. So that's kind of a dramatic example of what the ambassadors can do. A lot of times it's a lot simpler than that. A lot of times it's just being kind to someone, helping them pick up their books if someone's knocked them out of their arms in the hallway or whatnot. But it can be kind of fairly dramatic. And it uses and these are some of the skills that were used. One of the ambassadors started directing the aggressor, saying, hey, it's not cool for you to talk to the person this way. You know, you need to, and started naming some activities that they're involved in, football or whatnot. You know, this could get you off the football team because of what you're saying to this other student. And then another ambassador was supporting, and of course they did get the adult help that was needed. So ambassadors are trained to start with themselves, make sure that you're in a balanced position before you talk to anyone else. These aren't hall monitors, they're not walking up to other students and wagging their finger in the face and saying, don't do this. They're using relational skills. Then they start with their friends and families. We have a lot of stories of ambassadors coming back from their first holiday family get-together after training, saying it was the best holiday get-together they'd ever been through because they were practicing their skills with their families. And then they start with their classmates, and they start with their friends, the clique, the people they hang out with. Because of this behavior that they're doing, their friends start to emulate their behavior, and it creates a ripple effect. I kind of slid back past that PowerPoint slide a little while ago, but the Safe School Ambassador is an evidence-based program. We've been around for 17 years, and if the studies show, and our own data shows, because we collect discipline data, that if a school does the Safe School Ambassador program with fidelity, then the average drop in discipline data, fights, expulsions, suspensions, drops by 33%. And that's huge. And not only does this speak to the heart, because we want a more ethical place for our students to go to school, we want a safe, welcoming, inclusive environment, but it also speaks to people who are in charge of the funds for schools. Because especially in California, if students aren't in class for whatever reason, either they're expelled or suspended, or they're afraid to come to school. I think everyone knows this figure. There's 160,000 students every day that stay home from school in this country because they're afraid to go to school. In California, we lose ADA funds, so that is a financial impact as well. So the ambassadors, it's a year-round program. They meet every 2 weeks with their adults, and kind of similarly as a business meeting, they practice their skills. They talk about what went right, what went wrong. These students are highly engaged and highly involved in their campus. I'm going to use one last example because I think after this we should go to the video clip that shows ambassadors talking about the program themselves. But I got a letter from Jake Dean, who's the program advisor up in Middletown Middle School, who has a very robust Safe School Ambassador program. After the Valley Fire, the ambassadors, without the adults saying anything to them, started canvassing the campus. And even though they themselves, a lot of them had lost possessions or homes, were walking around to different students just saying, how are you? Do you need to talk? They got the real spirit of the program, which is about a positive campus. It's about intervening in mistreatment as early as you can, you know, to just kind of nip something in the bud before it escalates into a fight. But even more than that, it's about really teaching students how to look after each other and how to take care of each other. And I know we as a community, I know Sebastopol, I've lived here for 9 years, we're very much the spirit of that. The Safe School Ambassador program is in 38 states now. We've also done services in Guam, Puerto Rico, God bless them, and Japan. So we want to reach as many students as possible. When I mentioned Jake Dean just a moment ago, the program advisor at Middletown Middle School, he was an ambassador in Red Bluff, California. So that's a full circle, and it's fantastic to hear. We've trained over 80,000 students across the country. That's just us training, because we also have, after 3 years, the school can take over the program themselves, have their faculty trained so they can continue. They don't have to keep paying us to come back. We don't even have a count for how many students have been trained by the schools themselves. So it's pretty widespread, and we're very appreciative of that because we want as many citizens in the United States as possible to be able to know how to relationally move and navigate through life. And we want a bunch of people that know how to look out after each other. I think that's important to every single person in this room. I know it's important to me. So can we go ahead and put on the video now? And then after the video, I can answer any questions there might be if we have time.
Where's the pen? Did I get a text? Was the program originated here?
Hit escape.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we started in Sebastopol 22 years ago.
Clinton's been called out of retirement.
While the video is coming up, are there any questions? Yes.
I don't consider schools to be safe zones anymore with what's going on throughout the United States. And I'm just wondering, has this added a lot more pressure to the ambassadors in trying to keep their campuses safe and realizing the reality of what's going on?
Because of the climate in the nation right now. I can tell you a few years ago, we started hearing back from schools that there was an uptick in discipline issues. And so there is an added pressure in a certain sense, but I think, you know, the students are amazingly grounded, and they have to come to the same point that we come to, that is, we can do what we can do. We can affect and impact the people directly around us. Maybe some people have an opportunity to have a greater platform than that, but you can't lose hope. You have to just continue to be a positive force to the people that you're with, and do the best you can. And I mean, you have to kind of leave fear at the doorstep in a certain sense and just continue on, regardless of the state of everything.
Thank you. Bernadette, I think
These are students at Fairfield High School talking about the program. It's about a 3-minute clip. So
Safe School Ambassadors are students who are trained to prevent any form of harassment like teasing, exclusion, bullying, or even violence.
SSA is about making the school a better and safer place.
To find everyone and like pretty much bring everyone together and make the school either a safer place or just somewhere that you want to be rather than somewhere you dread to go.
SSA is about just like helping others and trying to make your fellow like classmates feel good about themselves, like not leaving people behind, not let people stay hurt and pain and suffering. Like, let's just make our campus peaceful. Is kind of what it's about, you know. Stop all the hatred.
A team of friends and families that work together to help improve our school and our school's culture and the way that our students and teachers see each other and themselves.
At its core, the Safe School Ambassadors Program is an inside-out approach to
Improving school culture. One that relies on social standards to empower students to help stop bullying and violence.
student bystanders see, hear, and know things adults don't, can intervene in ways adults can't, and are often on the scene of an incident before an adult.
They are a critical and underutilized resource in positively impacting the crisis of bullying in our schools.
If not you, who? If not now, when?
I was that girl. The girl who people walk past in the hallways. The girl who no one ever acknowledged. The girl who was too scared to raise her hand in the classroom because she was scared people would laugh.
A couple years ago, I was taken from my parents by the CPS. I was soon adopted by my grandparents. Before then, I never thought it would be able to get any better before I was taken away.
Safe School Ambassadors has allowed me to see what others go through. It's comforting to know that other people go through struggles too.
The Safe School Ambassadors Program has changed my view on life completely. It opened my eyes and showed me how much others have to go through. I'm not just talking about stress at school, but things much more intense like abuse and addiction.
For some people, they can't share their problem because they can't trust people.
This was one of the very first times I actually told my story to people that I trusted.
Now, I'm that girl who doesn't let people feel that way. I speak to the people who are on the sideline, for the people that don't use their voice. Our Safe School Ambassador Workshop opened up my eyes to my peers here at my high school, and now I'm that girl that will make a change.
This program has created a group of kids that is willing to do anything to help make our school not just safe, but comfortable.
So these are all volunteer students who do this every single day. The last thing I'll say is that in regards to the program, it's very relative to the school and the campus that it's at. So I mentioned Los Angeles, I mentioned Middletown. We have programs in different states. One of the things is that the students themselves decide how much to kind of publicize the fact that the programs is on the school. In Kern County, they've been a huge advocate, and they have Safe School Ambassadors in almost every school in Kern. They celebrate at the end of the year the Safe School Ambassadors. Everyone knows that the program's on the campus. There's other places like in Los Angeles where it's harder for a young person to discern the difference between like a snitch club and what this program is, which is helping friends help their friends make better and wiser decisions. And they need to be a little bit more under the radar. So it's always relative to the personality and the needs of the school. And the last thing that I would just say, we're in Brookhaven and Annalee right now. If you have connections at schools where you feel like this might be a good fit, we'd love the support. And as well, we have an annual luncheon every year, April or May, where we help raise funds to fund this program in different local schools throughout Sonoma. And we'd love to see you there. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry.
But maybe you could, would you mind staying for some questions after the meeting?
Not at all.
Good job. For whatever, there we go. Bernadette, I've got one task for you. For speakers, first of all, this is for you.
Well,
yeah, I shouldn't make fun of them. They're most, shall we say, serviceable. If you would pick one of these tickets, and we can advise the lucky person.
085.
082.
022. Oh, Bruce! Rich, get richer, Bruce. All right.
Why can't we have some?
Lori, did you bring? You brought the gift, right? Okay, I got it. I just wanted to give credit where credit is due.
Take the ASAP.
All right, my friend. Choose if you would. Hey, what? Oh, it doesn't work, but you do get delicious chocolate. Thank you, Lori. Who has the joke? My PowerPoint is down. Who has the joke? Okay. All right. Joke of the day. Does anyone have a joke of the day?
Brian Bauer.
How about you, Len?
Brian Bauer is got a joke.
That just died? I just changed it. Get the other mic.
Brian, yeah, go ahead.
Click.
Okay, so there's this scientist goes to God and says, we don't need you anymore, we got it all figured out. So God says, okay, show me what you can do. Scientist reaches down and grabs a handful of dirt. God says, get your own dirt.
There you go. Joe, take us home. Thank you.
Drills to you until we meet again. And drills to you, keep smiling on.